Welcome to Clubmen 1645, and today we're back in Dorset and we're going to a place called Charminster. Now at Charminster there's a 16th century, early 17th century riding stable, and it was owned by the Trenchards. It was built by George Trenchard.
We're turning right here.
We're turning right here. And then it was owned later on by Thomas Trenchard, and of course Thomas Trenchard was a clubman. Right, we're in Charminster and we're at Wolfeton Hall. Now Wolfeton Hall was the home of George Trenchard, and George Trenchard is the man that built this riding stable, riding house that's over my left shoulder. Now this was built in the late 16th century and early 17th century, and George Trenchard lived at Wolfeton Manor. Now the son of George Trenchard was Thomas Trenchard. And Thomas Trenchard was the man that met Fairfax in Dorchester on July the 3rd, 1645. Now, he was there with Richard Newman and George Hawes, and they had a petition and they wanted to go to the King and Parliament with their grievances about the civil war in the county of Dorset. And we have a description of that meeting. It was written in a book. It was written in 1661. And it is the book of the civil wars of Great Britain and Ireland, and it contains an exact history of the occasion, original progress and happy end. And it was written by an impartial pen.
I like impartial pens.
Yeah, but the happy end was 1661, so it was obviously when Charles II was put back on the throne. But
true.
there you go. So, but he had to be impartial, otherwise they cut his head off. But it talks of that time when Fairfax was in Dorset, and it says here, Fairfax found the clubmen a rude rabble of the country people of Wiltshire and Dorset, and they gathered together, and there was numbers of 4,000 to 5,000, but most of them were armed with no other weapons than staves and pitchforks, and they grew so insolent that they forced the Parliament's quarters in these counties. Now these two counties had indeed more than any two in England been made the seat of the war. Now, under the power of the King and soon after the Parliament, they were forced to pay contributions to both, so that between them the poor county was miserably harassed and almost utterly undone. And therefore they thus rose up in great body, refusing to pay contributions to either, and they were a formidable they were. Now, that goes to prove that the clubmen at the time were neutralists in the county of Dorset, and they weren't for the parliamentarian side and they weren't for the king's side. They were after their own self-preservation. So check out the Clubmen 1645 website. I think I've said everything, have I?
I think you have. Yes,
good,
yeah.
Because that was a lot to remember. And it's work in progress, but here we are today outside George Trenchard's riding house, and it's one of the oldest, I think it is the oldest riding house.
Yes, yeah.
And it's fully intact and restored, and they're having an art show here today, so we've come out to have a little sneaky look inside.
Yeah.
But yep,
it's quite rare. It's quite rare, isn't it? I don't think there's another one in the country. Or is there just a couple in the country?
Yeah, there's a few. There's the other Shaftesbury's one as well.
Yes,
Ashley Cooper's.
Yes, yes.
I've seen that a few times.
That's it. Yeah,
but that's
that
just,
hasn't been restored yet, though.
No,
this
is a storage place. But
heritage lottery funding, hasn't it?
But they're doing art display shows here now, so we might come out here and do that Clubmen map if we have the chance. But there you go. The trip out to Charminster in Dorset at Wolfeton Manor. When it describes the clubmen as being utterly disillusioned with the Civil War and unduly harassed and a county nearly undone, they were talking about the plight of the troops that kept coming through the county. Now it was both sides. It was the King and the Parliament and King and the Parliament, and they were constantly having to pay the money, the taxation to these garrisons, and that's why the county of Dorset and Wiltshire suffered so badly in the Civil War. It was just the sheer persistence of troops going through them constantly through the war. So as I said in that description, that description of the time sums up their anger. Another quick note to end on. Well, I mentioned it, Charminster and Wolfeton Hall, with both sides coming through the county in the English Civil War. Behind me, we've come out to Sturn Abbas. And Sturn Abbas is a classic example of where the parliamentarians and the royalists both came through this town, and Cromwell himself actually visited this town in 1645. But that's what I want to say, really. That's why we've come out to Sturn Abbas, and it's a wonderful day, and we're high up, and we managed to walk up another hill.
We have.
So.
And the Sturn Abbas giant is behind us, isn't it?
Yes, and we've been told you can climb over the fence and sit on his if you want to.
But we declined.
Yeah, so there you go. And don't forget to check out the Clubmen 1645 website, work in progress.